If you're ready for that high performance power to pair up with your Audison speakers, you're going to want to check out what Trail 7 put together for you with our plug and play Audison amp bundle. Stick around. What's up everybody, Mike here with Trail 7. Today we're bringing you Trail 7's plug and play audio system bundle for your 2024 Jeep. We have a couple things here on the table. I want to walk you through what we have here. We have a lot going on. Today we're going to specifically take a look at the amplifier bundle we put together. We previously launched a video for the speaker bundle for the 2024 Plus. We also, just so you know, have a speaker bundle for the 18 to 23, so you guys aren't left out. But today we're focusing on the 2024 Plus, which is going to be this side of the table plus a sub. And I'll walk you through what we're going to do, or what we have going on here, and what specifically we're going to show you how to install today. We already showed you how to install the speakers. We're going to put a link to the video in the description as well as to the product page so you can check out the options for your Jeep. Today, let's look at the plug and play amplifier bundle. So let's talk about some of the components we have here, and I'll walk you through what we have. We're going to show you how easy this is to install into the Jeep. So we have our power kit, which is a 4-gauge power wire. This includes the grounding. This includes the power run at the battery to the fuse block. The fuse block, of course. This includes the 6-channel RCAs. Here we have 2 amplifier harnesses. One amp harness is for the factory amplified Jeep. If your Jeep has the factory amplified system, which I'll talk to you about what that is and how to determine in a second. And if your Jeep doesn't have the factory amplified Jeep, then we have a harness here. So 2 separate harnesses for 2 separate Jeep applications. Again, I'll talk about that in a second, which one is which. The sub wire is going to go from the amplifier to your subwoofer, of course. This guy here is the pack module. This is the integration module needed to install the aftermarket amplifier to the factory radio. So this is going to connect to the back of the radio, and then the RCAs are going to connect from the amplifier. Again, I'm going to walk through all of that stuff, so don't worry about what goes where. We're going to show it to you. As far as a couple of pieces that are optional is the bass knob. We don't include the bass knob with all of the bundles. This is a 5-channel amplifier, by the way. So we don't include the bass knob with the amplifier just because some customers have the mentality of set it and forget it. They don't want a bass knob. They want to set the amplifier up. They're happy with that settings and they leave it. Some customers want to really adjust the amplifier bass settings based on song and different people driving it, etc. So we don't include it with the bundle. It's an option. This guy here, this is the fuse block bracket, so this will mount inside the engine bay. This isn't compatible with every Jeep, which again, why we don't include this in the bundle. If you have a 4xe, this is not compatible. If you have a 392, this is not compatible. If you have a Gladiator, Mojave, this is not compatible. So there are a couple of Jeeps that's not compatible with, so we don't include it. It is an option. I do recommend it. It makes the installation a little bit cleaner if you don't have the 392, Mojave, or 4xe. Also, one other piece that is an option over here, I'll talk about the amplifier in a second, is this amplifier bracket. This also is not included just because it doesn't fit in the 2-door Jeeps. It is a universal amp bracket, so it has some preset holes in here. Not all of the holes are going to line up with every amplifier. It's universal, right, based off of Stinger's amplifiers, not all amplifiers for where the holes are set. You can, of course, drill either holes to match up with the slots on the amplifier. You can use some double-sided Velcro tape, which is what we usually end up doing, or you can just find a hole that lines up with the amplifier hole and you can run a zip tie through there. So we like to go with the double-sided sticky option, the sticky Velcro. It's just a nice clean application, and of course you can mount the amplifier anywhere on that bracket. But again, whatever works for you. If you happen to find a slot that works with the hole, great. If you want to run the zip ties, whatever works for you, universal bracket. So let's talk about our amplifier harnesses. You're going to receive one or the other. One of them is for the non-factory amplified Jeeps. I'll tell you about what that is in a second. And one is for the factory amplified Jeeps. Today, we are installing their amp bundle into a factory amplified Jeep. So we're going to use this one here. What this does is this attaches to where the factory amplifier is in the Jeep and to the amplifier, so you don't need to run new speaker wires to all the speakers, etc. But this bypasses the signal out from the amplifier, so it's going to disconnect the factory speakers from the amplifier, which is where this is going to come into play. This is also going to disconnect the factory sub, but this is a 5-channel amp, so we'll be able to run a new subwoofer using the harnessing, etc. So amp bypass harness, we're going to demonstrate how to use this one today. It's for factory amplified Jeep. Non-factory amplified Jeep is going to get this harness here. This is a simple 9-wire harness. This runs from the amplifier to the pack module connections, all pre-connected for you. We have a quick little demonstration to show you how to do that, since today we're going to install the factory amplified harness. Now, how to determine if your Jeep is factory amplified or non-factory amplified. If it is not factory amplified, you will not have a subwoofer in the back of the Jeep. In the 4-door JL, it's on the right side of the cargo area. On the 2-door JL, there's a little oval grill that you'll see when you open the cargo door, when you open that rear door. On the Gladiator, it's behind the bench. The Gladiators are hardest to see. There's a little grill, honeycomb looking grill behind the rear bench. Just lower the passenger side rear bench, and you'll see it right there in the middle. It's more off to the side on the passenger side. We have pictures on the website, pictures on the product page to help you, guide you through that. The factory amplified Jeeps will have that subwoofer there, but there are some Jeeps that have the subwoofer in the back that are non-factory amplified because they run a mono sub. So if you do see that subwoofer in the back, check underneath the driver's side steering wheel, and we'll show you. We'll have a picture here. If you have that amplifier, then it's factory amplified. So first check to see if you have the subwoofer. If you do, then just confirm that it's actually the full amplified system that we're going to use this for. Some just have a mono amp. Most of them do have the amplifier that you're going to disconnect. So you have two Jeep options: factory amplified, non-factory amplified, and we have a harness, plug-and-play harness for whichever configuration your Jeep has. So those are the parts and pieces that are included. Those are the parts and pieces that are optional. The speaker bundle over here is for 2024 plus. The speaker bundle over here, you're familiar with seeing these. We've had these out for a while. These are for 18 to 23. We also have an Audison system for you. Now let's talk about the hero of the show. This is Audison's high-performing compact amplifier. This is a 5-channel amplifier. This is the Audison SR 5.6. This is over 1,000 watts. This is 115 watts for 4 channels. So your speaker channels are going to get 115 watts at 2 ohm. Their subwoofer is 550 watts at 2 ohm, which most of our subwoofers that we pair up for are a 2 ohm signal. This is a great high-performing, high-powered amplifier. Great for the Jeeps. Fits very nicely underneath the seat. So now I've shown you everything that's going to be included in your bundle. Now we want to show you how easy this is to install. But first, I want to show you a couple of basic hand tools that you're going to need to complete this install. We'll put that right here for you. And now we're going to move over to disassembly. We're going to use our pre-recorded disassembly video. We have a couple of videos that we shot in advance for universal disassembly, universal power run, etc. We're going to use those videos throughout this video, so you'll see some of those universal shots put in here. So let's go ahead and clip over the dash disassembly, and I'll be back with you in a minute. Now we're going to disassemble the dash to access the back of the factory radio. What we're going to do here is remove 4 screws on each side of this top piece. There's 2 on this side, 2 on this side. We're going to remove this piece here. There are 2 screws underneath here. These are Phillips head screws or 7mm. We're going to use a 7mm. So after you remove the 2 screws underneath here, we're going to pull this trim piece panel off here. It's going to come off. And then there's 5 screws that we want to remove that are behind this trim piece, and that's what's going to give us the access to pull this screen off. This is the 12-inch screen also. This is a big differentiator between the 18 to 23 Jeeps and the 2024 Plus. So if you have this screen, then you obviously have the 24 Plus. So let's go ahead and get these removed. 2 on this side, 2 on this side first. I'm going to pull this piece off. So now these 2 screws, 1 on each side. So we're going to pull this trim piece panel off here. This is going to pull right out, but note there's a little bit of a separator here, so I would be careful. I'll start with the left side, get a couple tabs out, and then go to the right side and get a couple of tabs out, and then pull it off in the middle. Now we're going to remove the screen. There are 5 screws on top to remove. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're just going to pull from the right side, work our way over to the left side. What I'd also recommend doing is get yourself a microfiber towel so you can put it against the screen when you flip this over. We're going to set the screen down inside the little cavity here. So I would just get yourself a little microfiber towel to protect the screen. And here are these two factory connectors. This has a little tab right here. It easily pushes in, pull it out. This one here has a little tab that's inside, this little wedged inside here. This is where a little flathead screwdriver comes in handy to press that tab in. That was just the screen. This is the actual radio. This is what we're trying to get to. So there are 4 screws on each corner here. We want to pull this down to access the back of this radio here. And for that, I'm going to switch over to the Phillips head. There you go. The dash is disassembled to access the back of the radio. Now let's show you how to install a power kit for an amplifier install. We're going to run the power, we're going to install the fuse block, install the power wire to the battery, etc. Let's go ahead and show you that. We're going to remove the driver's side seat here. There's 4 bolts. These are T50 Torx bolts. We're going to remove 4 on each corner, and then there's a control module for the heated seats underneath the bottom. If your seats have the electric seats that the new 2024 Pluses do have, there'll be a different module to connect. So just keep in mind this one does not have the electric seats, it just has the heated seats. Now we're going to slide the seat forward to get the 2 rear bolts out. Now to install the power, we're going to go from the engine compartment side into the cabin, and there's this grommet down here that we're going to drill a hole through. You'll see there's already a hole in this one because this customer has a remote wire for her winch, but that would be the grommet to drill through. You can take that grommet out and then drill through it and replace it. I'll tell you that it's a little bit difficult to do that. The way that that grommet fits in there, you have to screw it in. So I prefer just to drill into that while it's there and then fit the power wire through. This power wire here is a 4-gauge power kit, so you're going to need a 1/2-inch drill bit to get through there. So we're going to drill the hole, feed the power wire from the engine compartment in, and we're going to drape the power wire over the engine, connect it to the battery, and then finish the power install to the amplifier inside. Now we're going to feed our power wire through the grommet. The routing to the battery is we're going to go underneath these 2 brackets. So I'm just going to start it from underneath here and come this way and feed it into the cabin. All of the slack is going to end up underneath the driver's side seat. There's plenty of space there to spool it up. So we're just going to keep pushing it through until all of it is inside, minus the amount we need to hit the battery. Now we're going to install the remaining portion of the power lead. We're going to land this to the fuse block, and I'm going to show you the fuse bracket here. So this is the one that I was talking about earlier. This is optional. If you have the 392, this does not fit. And if you have the Gladiator Mojave, this also does not fit. This is neither of those, so this works. Our customer here has one of these brackets already installed because she has her winch disconnect kill switch on here. This mounts typically on these 2 bolts here. The kit comes with 1 bolt, which is going to go into this slot here, and they're going to remove the factory bolt to install this here. So she has it slid forward so she could mount this little block on here. Know for your install, you're going to slide it back and you're going to use these 2 spots here. What we're also going to do is just apply a piece of double-sided Velcro sticky tape to the bottom of the fuse block to mount that. What we're going to do also is I'm going to remove the fuse first, since we're landing the power wire here before anything else. So I'm going to remove this fuse. We're going to land the power onto the fuse block. We're going to mount it, and then we're going to attach it to the battery with no fuse inside. Once we ground the amplifier, power the amplifier, connect the power to the amplifier, then we'll come back at the end to install the fuse. So take the fuse out. And just set that aside for later. On the side here, this is a universal mount, so you can install smaller wires, 4 gauge, 6 gauge, 1/0, etc., etc. There's a little grommet, or there's a metal piece on the inside. You're going to remove that or keep it in depending on what size power harness you're using. This is a 4 gauge power, so we can leave that inner lining. You're going to remove that screw. There's a little plastic piece on the inside, a little rubber piece. Take that little rubber piece out. The same to the other side. Remove that little rubber piece from there. This is the battery side that's going to land on the battery. Can screw that in. And since she already has this switch on here, we just kind of have to navigate around the wiring that she has here. And we can now land this onto the bolt here on the battery. Again, there's no fuse in the block, so you can go ahead and land the power. We're going to come back and put this fuse in anyway, but so you don't lose the cover. Put the cover on. Now we can secure the wiring, the cabling. I'm just going to zip tie it to these points here, pull the rest of the slack through on that side, and then push the rest of the slack into the cabin, and then it'll coil underneath the driver's side seat, which we'll show you with it when you get there in a minute. All right, we'll be back to this after we land the power on the ground. Let's go ahead and push the slack through. Now just push the rest of the slack. There you go. Your power's done. Now we're going to go ahead and move into the cabin and pull that slack through and move on to the next chapter of the install. All right, we're going to finish this power cable routing here. We're going to remove this trim panels. We're going to pull this piece off first, then remove this trim panel piece here. There's a 10mm bolt that's holding this piece on, so after we pop this off, we're going to remove that bolt and then push this trim panel piece out. Then we're going to just route the cabling behind some brackets and some cable harnesses to run a nice clean route, and then this will end up spooling underneath the carpeting here. So let's get these panels removed. There's a 10mm bolt that's right here. We're going to remove this bolt, and this is holding this trim panel piece on, which is a part of this whole trim piece here. But before you do that, let's go ahead and remove this little door latch mechanism, so that way it's out of the way. And this is also attached to this trim panel piece that needs to be removed anyway. And to remove this, this just pulls down. It slides down. There's a little clip that it's attached to. Slide it down just like that. Now you can remove that 10mm bolt and then remove this trim panel piece. Careful not to drop the bolt. These things can fall down inside of there, and even though you remove this panel, that bolt can get lost. Now we're going to remove this trim piece. In order to do that, it just pushes out. You may need to use a trim panel removal tool just to kind of lift the ledge up, or one of these edges here, to get some leverage on it to be able to push it out. That just comes right out. Now we're going to route this wiring. There's this bar up here. And we're going to drip the wiring down and then route along the way here. Now we're going to remove this white panel piece here, and we're just going to unclip these 4 spots here. I'm going to lift the carpeting up. I'm going to conceal all the slack wiring underneath this little spot here, underneath the carpet. So there's plenty of space here to hide the wire. And we'll leave this out just so we can connect it to the amplifier once we're ready for that. But that concludes the power run. This is just now ready for the amp that you're going to install it to. All right, so there we have a lot of area prepped. The dash is disassembled, the power cable is ran, the area is prepped for the amplifier. Now we're ready to go ahead and install the Audison SR amplifier underneath the driver's side seat. Something I did want to point out here, because we're going to use some also pre-recorded clips showing the pack module installation, the amp harness routing, etc. And a part of that, what you're going to see is a different RCA. We use that other RCA in other applications. This Audison bundle is going to receive, this is a connection RCA. The brand is Connection. This is a family of Audison. So you'll see a different RCA in the bundle. And this is it here. And what this is also a directional RCA, and this is just a different type. And we're going to use this. It's a shorter. This is 8 feet. This just fits better with the Audison amplifier. So when you do receive your Audison bundle, just note you're going to have this RCA set in there. And when we install it and land this onto the amplifier, I'll explain exactly, of course, which set goes where, why, and a little bit more about the directional aspect of it. So just a note, this RCA will be included in the Audison bundles. Now let's go ahead and get that Audison amp set into place. Let's go. All right, here we have the Audison SR 5.6. Let's go ahead and get this connected with our power, our ground, our speaker wires, everything that we're going to need. And let's walk you through that. So the connections are on this side of the amplifier. So here we have your power, your ground. The remote wire comes on this little pigtail. This is provided. So this just clips right into here. We'll prep it with this bullet connector. So I'll show you where that connects to in a minute. Just know that this is going to come prepped. This blue wire here is a remote out. So in case you're going to, say, install a mono amplifier, this remote wire will trigger the mono amplifier to turn on when this amplifier turns on. This one is going to turn on via the red wire, which is going to be triggered from the pack module. So Jeep turns on, radio turns on, pack module turns on. That triggers the amplifier to turn on. And if you wanted a secondary amplifier, it would be turned on from here. So that's going to come with it. You definitely need to connect that. So power, ground. Here are your speaker wire connections. So starting from left to right, this is set up where the left 2 ports are the front left. Next one is the front right. So these 4 on the left side are your front speakers. The next 4 are your rear speakers. So the next block, the 3rd row down, is the left rear. The fourth block down is the right rear. And then this last block here, this is the subwoofer. We're going to install the sub wire, run that to just a universal sub in the back at the end. So, and again, starting from left to right, color is starting off with white, gray, green, and purple. And I'll show you how we land that as well. And the top is your positive, and the bottom is your negative. So the far left two ports here are going to be white, with the solid white being on the top, and the white with the black stripe being on the bottom. And then gray in the top, gray stripe, and then green in the top, green stripe, purple in the top, purple stripe. I'll show you how that works. We'll put a little graph on the bottom here in the screen so you can visually see that. Moving over to your RCAs. So like I mentioned a second ago, the RCAs that we're going to install here are going to be specific to this amplifier. This is a directional RCA. So let me just pick that up real quick and show you. It has this arrow. This arrow is pointing to the amplifier. This is coming from the source being the pack module. This 6-channel, these are not labeled with a front, rear, or sub. So you can really pick any one you want. The way we'll do it is starting from this side. This is going to be the sub. The middle one is going to be the rear. And the front one is going to be the front. And I'm going to have set up where the bright colors, so the orange, the yellow, and the red are going to be the right, and the darker colors are going to be the left. And a way to remember that, you can just think bright is right. But again, if you want to pick a different set to go to a different side, that's fine, as long as you're matching the same side on both sides, on the amplifier and on the pack module. So let's go ahead and start landing wires. I'm going to start landing all the connections necessary, and then we'll set the amp down, starting with the power wire. Something to note here, so this is a 4-gauge power wire. The ferrules come just pre-crimped. If the ferrule doesn't fit into the port, like here it's a little bit too wide, just get a pair of pliers and just squish this down a little bit to fit it in. And remember, our fuse is not connected at the battery. It's important to make sure that the fuse is not installed at the battery. Next, we're going to land the speaker wires, which are also going to come with the remote wire intact or included in that harness. And let me talk about 2 of the amp harnesses like I mentioned on the table there. We have the factory amp bypass harness, which is the one that we're going to use today since this Jeep is factory amplified. These connectors here, the factory amplifier is located underneath the driver's side left knee right by the steering column. You're going to disconnect the 2 connectors that are attached to the factory amplifier and connect these. We have a little picture that we'll show here. And of course, we're going to show you how to do this as well. This remote wire is going to extend over underneath the steering wheel column and over to the passenger side where the pack module is located. And this is going to connect into the female bullet connector that's attached and connected to the pack module harness. For the speaker landings, these are going to land on the terminals here in that color that I just mentioned. And this is your remote wire. This remote wire is going to connect into the remote wire on here. So that's connect just like that. Let me show you the other harness real quick because, as I mentioned as I was standing there, we have a pre-recorded clip showing the routing of the other harness as well as the RCAs to the pack module. This is the non-factory amplified harness, which is just a simple 9-wire. This connection here is what's going to attach to the pack module T harness. Of course, take that tape off. This remote wire, that's going to attach to the pack module female bullet connector. And then your speaker wires are going to land in the same color that we just mentioned a second ago, and we're going to show you with the factory amp bypass harness. Let's go ahead and get our factory amp bypass harness connected. I'm going to start from left to right. So white, gray, green, purple. Top row is positive, bottom row is negative. And see, here's a white cable with the black stripe. That is your negative. Next one up is the solid white. Go ahead and loosen all these first. Next up is gray. Again, gray with a black stripe. Here's a solid gray, goes on top. So those are your two front speakers. And two front being quadrant. So your left speaker dash and your left speaker knee, and the right dash and the right knee. So this is set up in quadrants. Next is going to be green, and that's going to be your left rear. You have two speakers in your left rear soundbar, so this is handling that quadrant. So here's green with the black stripe. And here's green solid. Last is our purple. Last minus the sub, of course, but last of the speaker wires is purple. So here is purple with the black stripe on it. And then here's your positive purple, just a solid purple, no black stripe. So there the speaker wires are landed, again from left to right, white, gray, green, purple. And now we're going to go ahead and land the sub wire. The sub wire for this is pretty much universal. There's several different subwoofer configurations, downfiring, side mounted, tailgate subs, etc. So we're going to land the sub wire. At the end, we're going to route that sub wire to the rear cargo area, and we're just going to land the Hertz sub that we had sitting on the table. So let's go ahead and put that sub wire in. This one here is black and blue. You may get a black and yellow one, black and red one, etc. The black is going to be your negative. It's the same thing here. The top port is your positive, the bottom is your negative. Let's go ahead and get that into the bottom. And the positive. There you go. Power, ground, remote wire, speaker wire, sub wire are all landed and connected to the amplifier. What you want to do is just give each thing a little tug. Just make sure that they're securely fastened in, make sure they're tight in there. Just give everything a tug. Nothing is coming out, nothing is loose, everything is nice and snug. Next we're going to go ahead and land the RCAs. So the sub wire here, this is front left and right, rear left and right, and sub left and right. The right is the red, the left is white. And using the directional RCAs, make sure you're grabbing it with the right end. The arrow is going to be pointing towards the amplifier. This is signifying that it's coming from the source being in this setup here, the pack module. So I said earlier, we're going to use, if you set it up like this, this is going to be the sub, this is going to be the center or the rear, and this is going to be the front. So doing the bright is right, the red is going to be the red, black is going to be the left, moving to the rear, which would be the middle set of RCAs here, and the bright being the right, yellow is the bright, and this purple here is the left. And now this is the front. The orange being the bright is the right. And the blue, the darker blue, is going to the left. Now again, it doesn't matter if you follow that same pattern or not. If you want to choose a different configuration, that's fine. As long as you match this side to the pack module, then you won't have any issues. And again, as long as you follow the direction here also. So everything is landed on here. Like I said earlier in the table also, we choose the Velcro. So we're going to put a couple pieces of Velcro on here and just stick it to the amp bracket. And then something else I want to point out with this amp bracket before I do that is that it doesn't sit completely flat. Again, we don't make this bracket, but it doesn't sit completely flat. It has a little piece right here that's preventing it, the curvature in the Jeep. So what we do is just bend this little piece up, just get yourself with a pair of pliers and just bend that corner up, and that way it'll sit flat and it'll make it easier when you put the seat down as well. There. Now it sits flat with the floor. And this side faces forward. So we're going to put two pieces of Velcro on here. Next, we need to route the RCA, and if you have the non-factory amplified Jeep, then you'll route also the amp harness through the transmission tunnel, which we'll show you here in a second. I do want to point out that the adjustments for the Audison amplifier are underneath this plate right here. So I'm going to remove this, I'm going to show you these adjustments. We don't send amplifiers out adjusted. We don't do that because everybody has a different style and a different setting that they want to set their amps up to. So we'll provide a baseline, like a safe baseline, so you can use that just to set the amp up, and if you like the baseline, then great. If you want to enhance it a little bit, if you want to tone it down a little bit, then we'll show you where those adjustments are for you to make some of those adjustments on your own. Right? What I would recommend doing, of course, when you do the power test, before you set the seat back down on here, make sure that you run that test to make sure to see if you want to adjust any of those further. Now let's talk about the adjustments. We are going to include in our installation guide a picture and a write-up of the suggested baseline settings, the safe settings. Don't worry about this mess. We're going to clean this up. We're going to make this look all nice and tidy in a little bit. Let's connect the bass knob to the amplifier. Again, like I said in the table, this doesn't come with the kit as it is, because a lot of people just like to set up the amplifier. They're a set it and forget it type of mentality. A lot of people like to run the bass knob. I recommend one, but again, not everybody wants one, so we don't include them in the bundle. There will be an after option that you can choose to add it. So where we're going to mount this is just a universal way. Some people like to mount these inside the armrest. Some people like to mount them in certain custom areas. We just have a very simple suggested route here. This is not the way to do it. This is just a way to do it. You can choose any way you like to. This cable is plenty long enough, as you see here. So what we do is connect it to the amplifier, route it along the tunnel here. We're going to tuck it up underneath here, tuck the carpeting back in there, of course, and the bass knob is just going to land right here on a Velcro piece right underneath the driver's side knee area here. Like I said, the cabling is plenty long enough. You can certainly mount this anywhere you want to. We've seen some pretty creative mounting locations, but for simplicity, we're just going to Velcro tick it right here. So this just connects to the amplifier. Another reason why I like using the Velcro. That's this sub wire over here, the remote volume control. When you put the carpet back, of course, this will stay into place. And if you need to remove this, no big deal, because it's on a Velcro piece once that sticks. And if you want to find a different place for it, by all means, we've seen plenty of creative locations for that. So lastly, before we do route the wiring to their side, is we do need to land the ground wire, which goes on this bolt right here. And there. Now we have everything landed on the amplifier. Now we can route the wire to the passenger side, and we can dress up whatever cabling we do over here. So we're going to clip over to our pre-recorded clip to show you that part of the routing of the amp bypass harness and the RCA wiring, and I'll be right back. So let's route this wiring along the trim panel. You're going to route it underneath this plastic piece just as you did for the battery power cable. Go underneath here. That snaps right back down. There is a 10mm bolt that holds this piece down to here. Which is this guy here. I'll come back and tighten this in a little bit. Now we're going to go ahead and connect the factory amp bypass harness to the connectors that are attached to the factory amplifier. There's 3 connections that are attached to the factory amplifier. We're going to pull out 2 and connect them into our harness here. After we do that, we can dress up the cable, we can zip tie it up there. But this remote wire then needs to be routed up underneath the steering wheel column, through the center console, and over to the glove box. This needs to connect to the remote wire, the amp-on wire, that is on the pack module harness. So there are 3 connectors of the factory amplifier. You're going to remove the 2 on the left, not the white one on the right. So you're going to not remove this one. You're going to remove these 2 here, right here and right here. And there's a little button right to press right here. Just press the button and pull out. There's one, the other one. Now we're going to connect these 2 to our bypass harness. Let's go ahead and connect these into our harness. Clean the wiring up. We'll zip tie these up here so they're not, of course, hitting the pedals. All right, all we're doing now is routing the remote wire from the amp bypass harness up through the steering column, through the center console area here, to the bottom, and then over to the glove box to connect in. And I'm going to start feeding this through the center console along with the amp harness. We're going to push the amp harness with the RCAs through. I'm going to just put a little piece of tape on here to hold them. There's a clear channel that goes underneath this center console here. We removed the seat on the passenger side just for what we have going on here. It's easier for you to see what we're doing. You don't necessarily need to remove the seat over there. However, of course, it's going to be easier pushing this cable through to grab it on the other side. You can certainly grab it while it's being pushed through on the other side with the seat in place. It's just easier without it. And of course, for what we have going on here, it's best for demonstration. Just go ahead and put a piece of tape just to hold this together. So we're going to go ahead and pull all of the slack from the amp harness through. We're going to pull most of the RCA wire through. There's plenty of space behind the glove box to mount the slack RCA wire. So don't worry about pulling too much through. There's plenty of space behind there. Let's show you how to install a pack module to the back of the factory radio for an aftermarket amplifier install. First step is to remove the glove box. Lower it. There's this tab right up top in the middle center here. Just push the tab in and lower the glove box like so. You may have this arm that's connected, and that'll just slide right out once you lower it. Now the pack module, so I was talking about on the bench earlier. So the amplifier harness that you ran in, this connection here is going to attach to this connection here once you install it. I'm just showing you. And then this remote wire is going to connect down to this bullet connector. So this male and female bullet connectors are going to attach. And then the pack module itself is just going to connect right into here. Something to note on the pack module, there's these 4 dip switches. If your Jeep is non-factory amplified, dip switch number 4 has to be down. If you have the factory amplified system, dip switch number 4 would be up. In this case here, this Jeep is non-factory amplified, dip switch number 4 is going to be down. So let's go ahead now and disconnect the connections from the back of the factory radio, and that's where this T-harness is going to connect to. Once I connect the T-harness, I'm going to drip this wire harness portion behind the radio, and this is what's going to come down to this glove box area, and that's where the pack module is going to connect. And then the amp harness is going to run up and connect into that, and the RCAs are going to connect into the pack module as well. So let's disconnect the connections at the factory radio now. So go ahead and disconnect this green and blue connection here. Push in. Get that out. This is in the up position. Push that in to get that out. And I take your T-harness. Make sure you hear that snap into place. Make sure you hear the snap. Go ahead and lock them in. Lock them in. Remember, this part here is going to drip down into the back of the glove box, and that amp harness wire is going to run up from the glove box, and it's going to connect into this port here. Now connect the blue into the blue. Make sure you hear that snap. Green into the green. Make sure you hear the snap. Now let's go ahead and feed this through. So with one hand you're going to feed it through, and the other hand you're going to reach up to the glove box. Just find your fingers, push this through. All right, there we go. There's the other end of it. It is a tight fit. You just have to finagle around and find your fingers and just kind of push through. There is, trust me, a channel. As you can see, it came through. But again, it is a little bit of a tight fit to get it through, but it will go. So I'm going to make the connections. I need to connect the male and female bullet connector, like I said, attach the pack module to the harness. But first what I'm going to do is attach the RCAs to the pack module. So this is labeled on the back side here. Sub, rear, front. So like I said earlier on the explanation of the RCA, this is a directional RCA. So make sure you grab the connect to source. Make sure that this is on the side that's connecting to the pack module. And also this is labeled front, rear, S, sub. So you connect the S into the sub. The red is the red and the black is the white. Red, red, black, white. Next, the rear. On the RCAs, grab the one that has the R, which is the middle one here. red, red, black, white. And then the front on the RCAs has an F. Red, red, black, white. All right, now let's go ahead and connect the harness to the pack. That's this connection here. Make sure that snaps in. Probably light up some colors. And then also connect to the male and female bullet connector. If these are not connected, the amplifier will not turn on. So if you have a problem at the end where you're not getting any power to the amplifier, and you've double, triple checked the power at the battery, this is going to be your culprit right here. Make sure that these are connected here and at the amplifier. Say a lot of our trouble tickets from lack of power results from the remote wires not being connected either here or at the amplifier, so make sure that that is connected. So that's done. Next, we just need to button this up. We need to just wire manage the slack here, find a nice spot to where this pack module can be zip tied up to, and that'll be done. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of just zip tying that up. But you may want to test your system before you zip tie that all the way up in there and do all of that. So you may want to go ahead and do a power check. We just went ahead and did that, so if you want to do that after you power test everything, it'll save yourself the trouble from having to do that and then come back to take it out to check RCAs or something like that. So this is mounted, the radio is connected, the amplifier is connected. Last thing to do is install that fuse in the fuse block, do a power test, and then we can button everything up. So let's go ahead and go to the engine where we can put that fuse in. All right, we're going to go ahead and install the fuse into the block now. The power is landed at the amplifier and the amplifier is grounded. Just check to make sure those two things are done. Do not install this fuse if those two things are not done. Just also, heads up, anytime you install any new power, you're going to see a spark. Nothing to be afraid of. It is normal and it will happen. Ready? There it is. Cool thing is it won't happen again. So you can remove it. When you install it, it won't do it again. It's just when you install a new piece for the first time, you will get that flash, that spark. So nothing to be afraid of. It is normal. Go ahead and install our Trail 7 fuse block. And we are done here. Now let's go ahead and power test the amplifier. Let's just turn the accessories on the Jeep and make sure the amplifier turns on. Make sure everybody's happy. All right, there we go. Power the amplifier. Everybody's happy. Before we button it up, let's go ahead and finish running that sub wire that we prepped earlier. We're just going to tuck that along the trim and feed it to the back where the downfiring sub is resting. So let's go ahead and do that. So find the channel underneath the seat that works best. You'll just lift that carpeting up and with your hand just kind of feel around and feel the best path to push that and pull that wire through. And as you'll see with my hand on the back here, I've just grabbed the wire and I'm just going to pull that up. And you see this is where the subwoofer sits. This is the downfiring sub. It's just going to rest back here and this wire is going to connect to that here in a minute. You can tuck this carpeting back. You can push back any slack, and you can kind of just pull it up underneath the carpeting here and just leave yourself, you know, a few inches, a foot or so. And we're going to go back there in a minute and we're going to connect that. All right, so the amplifier is installed, the power's ran, you saw the amp is happy, so we're good to go with that. Next, we're gonna go ahead and install, or we're just gonna land the wire. We routed the sub wire. We're just gonna go ahead and land the sub wire to this subwoofer. This is the Hertz downfiring 12-inch. In our bundles, we're gonna offer the Hertz downfiring 12-inch, the downfiring 10-inch. The 12-inch is great for the 4-door JL. The 10-inch is great for the 2-door JL because it'll fit behind the seat. We'll also offer a Gladiator subwoofer enclosure that fits underneath the Gladiator rear bench. It's a ported dual 8-inch sub. It's a great subwoofer, very powerful, thing sounds phenomenal. They're all going to connect the same way. If you have your own subwoofer, this is pretty much a universal connection, right? This is just a positive and negative coming off the sub port on the amplifier. So we're going to show you this lands on here, very quick, very simple. It's a very simple connection here. These are just terminals. You're just going to push on it to connect to the wire. Red, black, positive, negative course. And like I said earlier, blue and black on these here. Black is your negative. So let's go into the negative, positive. That's it. The sub is installed, or it's connected. Cool thing about these, really cool feature actually, the feet come with these little hook Velcro piece on here. So when you put this into the carpet, this sticks really well. These don't slide around at all. So this is a great solution for back here. So as I said, you know, sliding around, you don't have to worry about this guy sliding all over the place. It matches really well. These are great subs. This is the 12-inch sub. Like I said, this is a great solution for the 4-door. So there you have it. The downfiring Hertz 12-inch subwoofer has been installed. And like I said, the routing of that is really universal sub install if you have a different sub of your choice besides one of the ones that's going to come in the bundle. So let's go ahead and move on to buttoning up. We just need to put everything back together, do our final wire management of wherever it needs that, and we'll come back to you in a second. All right, everybody, there you have it. There's Trail 7's plug-and-play Audison bundles been installed into our 2024 Plus. We're going to be launching several new Audison bundles, Hertz bundles, Audison packages, pieces, Hertz packages and pieces, etc. If you don't know, if you're not familiar with Hertz, they're a sister company of Audison. They go hand in hand. As you can see here, we use the Hertz sub with the Audison amplifier and the Audison speakers. So anyway, we're going to be launching all sorts of different products from these two brands. Stick around, check out what they have. If there's something that you'd like to see within this brand or any other brand, absolutely reach out to us. We'd love to hear back from you guys. So hope you saw how easy that was. Hope you enjoyed the installation. If you'd like to pick up your Audison bundle or plug-and-play bundle for your Jeep, please visit us today at www.trail7.com. Until next time, we'll see you out there.